But Corey, have you touched any of the seasonal content for season?
I have not touched Season of the Hunt. I've been watching some stuff on it because I wanted to be prepared for tonight. I'm actually tackling a lot of it tomorrow night with Mitch. We've been planning on tackling a lot of it together this weekend just because our schedules are similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the Osiris stuff is super interesting. The Crow stuff is interesting. Like it's.
I guess let's go. Let's do it. We're doing a mini lore corner this week, guys. I'm working on some big deep dives. What we're about to discuss is stuff that is on Bungie.net. They've released 3 lore chunks since Beyond Light came out. 2 huge ones about Osiris, and 1 about Crow. And we're going to touch on the stuff that you get at the very beginning of the season. So nothing that you won't get thrown at you in the intro quest. Basically, Osiris is on a mission from the Vanguard when we pick back up with him. We know that he was investigating the pyramids out in the far reaches of space before Season of Arrivals. We had a lore drop about him and Sagira going out there and encountering the pyramids, and Osiris came back into the ship and was feeling a little different, so to speak. He went out there after the encounter we saw with Rasputin. He goes to each of the sunset planets, basically as the pyramids in the darkness are overtaking them. Reports that Titan and Io are completely lost to darkness. Mars, he obviously knows that Anna has evacuated. He says that Sloane and Asher are missing. He does not make any mention of Vance, which is absolutely hilarious to me. Instead of trying to save Vance, he goes to the lighthouse and ransacks Vance's lighthouse and takes all the artifacts from the cult of Osiris with him.
Which is hilarious.
That's great.
Because it just means like he hates Vance just as much as we do.
He does. They made it canon that other people hate Vance. And there is, the whole Trials lore book really goes into why Osiris can't stand this guy. Why him and Marisov both just hate Vance so much.
It's so funny.
So that basically concludes part 1. It's him going to the sunset planets, and there's a lot of meaningful talk with Sagira there. Then he goes to the Dreadnought and enters through the giant hole that the Cabal made and that we placed Cade's beacon at and stuff. And when he's on the Dreadnought, he intercepts a message calling all remaining Red Legion forces back. And he assumes it to be from Khalidi, from Callus's daughter. And she says that we're going to go and we're going to hunt down the false emperor and the traitor Callus. Osiris starts chasing those messages. He traces them to the Tangled Shore, which leads him to encountering the spider. He then traces them to the moon, and he goes into the depths of the moon. And this is where because he's been hearing this voice in his head. He realizes he's been played when he gets into the depths of the moon. Xivu Arath, Oryx's other sister, is here. She's not hypothetically coming. She is in fact here already, and starts sending hordes and hordes and hordes of hive at Osiris. And if there is ever a lore entry I wish so desperately we could have gotten as a cutscene, it's this. He double dawn blades. He's hurling Nova bombs left and right. He fires off multiple chaos reaches. He is showing why he's the most powerful guardian ever. And it's still not enough to beat Xivu Arath's hordes. Osiris is gravely injured. He asks Sagira to leave him, get to the city, and tell Saint and Zavala what is happening. And Sagira is basically disobeys him and is like, I'm not leaving you behind. This is one of the most prominent times we've had a major character die off screen. Sagira sacrifices herself to save Osiris. She uses all of the Traveler's Light that is within her to extinguish the hive. And it's said in the lore that her explosion is so bright that it lights up the pyramid on the moon for days. So when we pick up with Osiris, when we pick up with Season of the Hunt, it's a message that we've received from Zavala's giving it to us, dispatching us to Luna, telling us that rescuing Osiris is our top priority. His ghost has been destroyed. He's on his last life. We need to get him back to the city. Like whatever differences the Vanguard and Osiris may have, like they cannot afford to lose his knowledge. They can't afford to lose his knowledge, his intellect, etc. And if you go to the tower, he is in fact chilling in the courtyard now.
Yeah.
Not too far from Mycora and from Hawthorne.
Hawthorne's still there.
When you get Hawthorne is still there. She is no longer the worst character in Destiny, though, thanks to Shahan.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. Side tangent. I roaming there's a mission in the Cosmodrome, right? He's like when you I think it's part of, I forget what mission it's part of, but like you meet him and I'm just like, I'm so glad I didn't do the new light quest. This guy's the worst.
It's so bad, dude. It's so bad. He is easily my least favorite character, and just the way that his character is animated really bothers me too. His eyes are like always looking off screen.
Yeah.
Like I'm the king of not looking at people in the eye, and I know how much it really bothers people. And when I see video of myself doing that, I'm like, oh god, is this what I look like?
It's
it's bad.
He looks like somebody who like went out to cosplay as a guardian in like the Cosmodrome, and somebody's taking pictures of him someplace. You know, like
it's not great.
No, it's not.
So yeah, going back to my boy Osiris. We finally get to that point that we saw in the Season of the Hunt trailer and it explains why he's able to be knocked down by such a basic looking knight. His year 1 scout rifle falls to the ground, his Curse of Osiris scout rifle, and then a sword pierces the knight, and we see behind him Uldren Sov, reborn as the Crow, and his ghost Pulled Pork, who has now been christened as Glint.
Not calling him that. Never
I'm not
calling him
no,
that.
They are. I will call him Crow. He's earned a new life, but that ghost will always be Pulled Pork to me. Always. They save him, and a lot of the seasonal dialogue you get in the Wrathborn Hunt missions subsequently is Glint or Pulled Pork, Crow, occasionally Spider will pop in, and Osiris. It's really them. You are immediately, when you pop into a load screen after that cutscene, Osiris goes to the last city. We don't see him do it, but he goes back to the city. You go to the Tangled Shore with Crow, though, for an audience with Spider. And Spider's like, I specifically said, bring me Osiris. I've worked with this guy before. I don't want him. I want Osiris. I want the most powerful guardian ever. Crow explains what happened, and Spider's like, okay. Like, Spider 100% knows who Uldren is, and he hasn't told him. Instead, what he's done is he's taken Uldren into his employ. And we get a big lore drop. The final piece that Bungie had put out for us is really all about Pulled Pork and Uldren, and them kind of hiding out. Like, a lot of the Fallen know who he is, and like, I mean, the Sov name is still to be feared. Like, they still know him, and Pulled Pork is debating how to tell Uldren about his past. He knows he's gonna have to, because he's like, I don't know why some of these guardians look at me with such hatred. And, you know, both Spider and Pulled Pork have been like, oh, you come from the last city. Like, there's lots of old friends there, and this and that. And Spider had intercepted him before he went to the city, brought him into his employ. We hear from that lore drop that there are wires that stick out of Pulled Pork. And Spider confirms it to us when we have our audience with him. He's essentially suicide squatted Uldren and his ghost. If Uldren ever wanders too far from the shore or from where Spider wants him to, boom, he'll kill his ghost. So I just got to say right now, friendship with Spider ended. Uldren and Pulled Pork are now my BFFs, regardless of what they did to Cade. Well, regardless of what Uldren did. Pulled Pork had nothing to do with this. But you can't just do that to a ghost. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't just put a bomb inside of a ghost. So that is a problem that I do wonder when we're going to reckon with that. But safe to say, there is a reckoning coming for that. And I don't think it'll be until the end of this coming year, when the Season of the Hunt stuff is taken out of the game, so that he can leave the shore.
Yeah.
or when the shore gets vaulted. I do think we're gonna have to deal with Spider at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's a huge insight. Like, he's so different than how Uldren used to be. He's got this cocky, charismatic swagger. He literally feels like a brand new character, which is the whole purpose of being reborn as a guardian.
Right.
And I think it's so cool that we essentially get to see a new light. And he talks to us about how much he reveres the light, how special it is that we've been reborn and this and that. He almost sounds like a street preacher sometimes. It's really cool. And he's like, I don't know you, but you feel familiar, and you get an object in game that it's automatically sent to your postmaster, but it's a letter from Osiris, basically begging us not to tell Uldren who he is, or who we are, what our connection is. And for the love of God, he literally tells us not to kill him. Not to kill him again, because that's going to create unnecessary problems and it won't be satisfying to us. That for now, we have to treat him as he is. He's risen. He is risen as a guardian. He's deemed him worthy. Which is just the craziest thing. Like, when we killed Uldren, did you ever think he was going to... the cutscene that we saw in Black Armory aside, did you ever think Uldren would, one, come back into the story, and two, be reborn as a guardian?
No.
I don't think any of us did.
No.
Like, he as far as we were concerned, outside of Oryx, he's probably the most heinous villain that we've ever encountered. Like, he killed Cade. He killed Cade. He's destroying the reef. He's trying to destroy the awoken Holy Land, essentially. Like, and now for him to be reborn as a guardian, to not know anything, and for Spider to have so carefully kept him to the Tangled Shore and not let him go elsewhere, not let him go to the reef, not let him go to the Dreaming City, not let him go to the actual last city on Earth. Like, there's a reckoning coming there, and that is a plot twist I did not foresee.
Yeah.
I of course was adamant we were going to run into him on the Cosmodrome. I did not think we were going to run into him in the Tangled Shore and have him be in the employ of probably the worst person for him to be working for, frankly.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, for sure.
Spider definitely has his own private guardian, which is what he's wanted since he met us, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the narrative of Season of the Hunt is really interesting. I can't wait to see how they, kind of let this play out, because obviously there's a lot more to go. There's a couple lore books that are completely tied to this, which require a lot of grinding to unlock. So I'll be grinding those out over the next couple weeks. We'll do some lore corner segments on that and on some of the stuff that the Stranger is telling us. Just some huge ramifications. We kind of touched on this last week, but one of the big things that the Exo Stranger introduces to us that I think has largely flown under the radar of this community is time travel.
Yeah.
With that, literally anything is possible now, and we'll go into her Dark Future lore book more specifically as this season goes on. We're waiting for the last 2 pages to actually drop in-game before we cover it. They are on Ishtar Collective now. If you've unlocked everything up to this point and can't resist like I couldn't, there's essentially a hint given that the timeline that she's from, that the Traveler basically sent her back in time, and what we are living out now is her actively trying to change the past, like essentially inferring that she's caught in a time loop, and every time she fails, she's sent back, and Europa is kind of the crux of all of that, because when we fell to the dark, the whole timeline went to hell.
Yeah.
And since we've resisted it this time, she's hopeful that we can change it. There's something in one of the Lost Sectors as you're doing the Born in Darkness quests. You see the reunion of Elsie and Anna. Anna doesn't take it well, understandably. Like, there's so much to take into account here. And so many deep lore threads that we're going to have to do. So much Clovis Bray talk to be had. You have to do Clovis Bray 2.0. We just did Braycore and Stranger not too long ago. We're going to have to do them again probably in December. We're going to do specific lore books. There's a lot to be had. And the lore is more accessible than ever. So many things that have only been talked about in the lore or hinted. So, I mean, Stranger being Elsie was a fan theory for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's finally been confirmed canon. We're like, oh my god, this is incredible. Like, we're actually getting this. And so it's shocking a lot of people going, oh my god, are you serious? Like, Anna had a sister? And I'm like, yeah, so dude, so like we've been waiting years for this. Like, those of us who love the lore so much have been waiting so long for this. For Sivu Arath, for Crow.
It's crazy all the seeds that they plant, even as far back as like the Taken King with what's going on now is like, man, this is just like, there's so many seeds that they planted and are making their way into the story now, and it's just like, I don't know, it's so good.
This is what they wanted to do, and I have no doubt that they would not have been able to realize these as fully as they are had they remained with Activision. I don't think they would have been able to. And I think that's part of the beauty of this. I think that's why so many people continue sticking with this over other looter shooters is, yeah, there may be a loot problem with the game and its core expansion. And, the seasons always build on this. We come back to this. Every year we go in the same cycle. By the end, we're like, oh, this is a pretty great year for loot. And then we get back, the new expansion comes out a couple months later, like, oh my God, we hate you, Bungie. Why do you keep doing this to us? But for all of that, the lore is at the absolute best place it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're getting some of these exotic from. I mean, literally, Salvation's Grip, we basically heisted out of a fallen city. It's awesome. It's a great mission.
Yeah.
It's a hilarious mission. The dialogue from that, it might be like, it made all the annoyances of Ghost in the campaign completely worth it. It's fantastic. There's so much, like, we get Drifter fleshed out a bit more in the post story content. Varix has so much to do. Varix knows that there's a reckoning coming for him eventually, that he will not escape judgment. And he says, I will accept judgment for what I've done. Like, I was wrong. I was wrong to do what I had done. And I would kill to see his reaction when he finds out that Uldren is alive as a guardian.
Yeah.
Mara has a part to play in this. There's an audio message from her in Zavala's office, which was the lore were really cool about Osiris because they were condensed into like sound bites that you could listen to in Zavala's office.
Yeah,
and I think you still can.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's the kind of world building I want to see. He sent back the Fang of Xivu Arath. That's our seasonal artifact, and there's so many cool things going on right now with the Wrathborn Huns and with that. And it's just, I think it's in such a good place. There's just a few things that need to be fixed, namely with the loot, namely with the fun killing, the fun police needs to ease up just a little bit. But I can't wait to do the Deepstone Crypt. I'm wrapping up. We wanted this to be a shorter show tonight. The Deepstone Crypt hits on Saturday. When y'all are listening to this, Deepstone Crypt is less than 24 hours away. I can't wait. I have waited years upon years for this. As someone who has played an EXO since the Destiny Alpha,
mm-hmm.
I've waited more than long enough for my answers about the EXOs. The Awoken basically got an entire expansion in Forsaken, and with the Dreaming City and all that, we got all their lore. We're finally getting that spicy EXO lore. And it's genuinely awesome to see how much care and how much time they've taken with doing this. And we're going to the place where the Exos are supposedly created, which I still maintain I think is going to end on the Vex homeworld or on a Vex Forge. We'll see in about 24 hours when you're listening to this.
By the way, the Braytech facility on Europa is one of the coolest looking locations.
Mm-hmm. It makes you feel like I'm in like Star Wars or something. Like I'm in the cloning facilities from Camino.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like to me, or like the Jedi Archives or something like that. It's so cool. It feels distinctly different from anything that we've seen in Destiny. It feels to me like what the labs on Venus should have felt like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or some of the facilities on Mars or something, and it's just such a special time.
The Clovis Blair facility on Mars had some of that, but not nearly this much.
Yeah, I should clarify. I meant Clovis, or not Clovis. I meant just like Destiny 1 interiors.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, they started progressing there with Destiny 2, especially with the Warmind facilities.
Mm-hmm. The Warmind facilities were cool.
Like, this is the most like sci-fi like civilization thing that we've ever seen, I think, in this series. And I think that says a lot. Like, they continue to make Europa have all these different feels. You have the feel when you're out in the snow. You have different feels in the lost sectors when you're dealing with Vex radiolorian fluid. When you're dealing with like the ancient fallen city. They've converted one of the Europa cities into that. Climbing all the buildings. Going up all these different elevators and grav lifts to get into there, to break into that city, or to go into their facilities where they make their weapons. Like, there's so many different things, and like the scope of the world, just the skybox is amazing to see all these old skyscrapers that are protruding out of the snow. And when you go deep, like into the Clovis Bray facility, sometimes you see some of those buildings.
Yeah.
You do the Glassway strike, and you've got this gigantic Vex gate in front of you that it is strongly implied that is Clovis Bray's Vex portal that goes to the Vex Forge. I still think that's going to be part of the raid somehow.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like you're going to go in there and like it's kind of going to be like Vault of Glass, where like you see the outside of it, right? And like some of the strikes and stuff take place with inside of it, but like that's your portal into the raid almost, or like part of the raid. I feel like that. It looks cool.
I think so too. I think I've been pretty adamant the last couple of weeks, the more that we've learned from the Collector's Edition and now from the lore in game, that when the Deep Stone Crypt, they keep showing us images of the Clovis Bray facility. So I think it'll start there, but I absolutely think that probably the back half or back third of it will absolutely be in a Vex installation of some sort that is far away.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the lore that comes out of the raid. I'm so excited. As soon as that lore book is like officially released, regardless if I finish it or not, we will break that down sometime in December, 100%. Yeah. Any lore associated with the raid, because that's gonna be such a humongous deep dive. I can't wait.
I know. I can't wait to hear about it. So you want to touch on anything else before we get out of here?
No. I think the only other thing, I'm looking over the TWAB real quick to make sure there's nothing that we missed. And I don't think that there is. I mean, it's a lot of raid prep, a lot of patch notes with the loot notes we already talked about. There's a whole list of running issues. I'm not going to read those out. Y'all can go find those out for yourself in this week's TWAB. The only thing I would like to say is I know it's been a really rough time in this community the last couple of weeks. I mean, this release has not gone super smooth in terms of bugs, in terms of glitches, having to disable content, having to re-enable content. The vault is pretty clearly working as they intended. They were able to get this hotfix out a lot quicker than any of us thought they would. We thought it was just going to be something nerfing stasis, and it was a huge update. And now there's another update coming on Tuesday to fix the loot pools, and it's probably going to be a bigger fix, frankly. It won't be a hotfix.
Yeah.
We've still got the raid coming. We didn't have to delay the raid. Thank God. I think had you had to delay the raid, I think rightfully the community probably would have freaked out. I'd be like,
especially because
is the game in trouble?
Especially because, like, usually the raid comes out, like, 3 or 4 days after the expansion, and this one's 10, 11.
I think they made the right choice to delay the raid, especially given the stasis issues. I think that's precisely why they delayed it, too. We're introducing all these new subclasses, and it's a brand new element on top of that. We need to see how this works with everything first, and make sure nobody can do basically what Glad did and melt bosses in one hit.
Yeah.
Or get infinite super or something like that. I still fully expect there to be some absolutely bonkers glitch in the raid. So I can't wait to see what happens. I want to watch some runs after we do ours. The only other thing I would say is, a lot of the community I know is good with this, with giving constructive feedback and whatnot. Don't be one of those guys who goes in and starts screaming at the community managers. They are relaying messages from the dev team. It is not their fault. That is not an excuse to go seek out people from the dev team to harass either, though.
Yeah.
The calls I see on Twitter every single time an expansion comes out or a season comes out, calling for Luke Smith to be fired or for all the studio heads at Bungie to be sacked are ridiculous. I do think at a certain point when you keep having the same complaints about a release, there probably needs to be some questions and some serious discussion amongst studio leadership about why does this keep happening? Why have we not addressed this for like a third year in a row? Namely, the lack of weapons in your initial release, how people feel about seasonal content, etc. But that's not an excuse to go and harass devs or the community managers or anything like that. Like, for example, I really wish that there were new Crucible maps and new Gambit maps. I think it's egregious that we had a $40 release without either of those things.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely unacceptable that there's no maps for either of those on Europa or on the moon that were added. I think, or in the Cosmodrome. That's
the Cosmodrome is bigger to me than Europa, because like I feel like, I mean, not that like the Crucible maps are take place within the world map or whatever, but like I feel like Europa has that dynamic weather. I mean, which it could make some cool Crucible maps, honestly, but like maybe they're trying to figure out how to balance the real-time weather effects and everything. Like, I don't know, but yeah, the Cosmodrome Crucible maps not being in there is like, come on now. Even if they pulled old ones, you know. So
yeah, I just think, frankly, it's laziness at a certain point. So we'll see what happens in subsequent seasons. I do think that they're probably saving new Crucible maps for the Trials refresh that's coming, not next season, but the season after, which I still think is way too long to wait for new content. But if that's what happens, that's what happens, unfortunately. Gambit, I think, is the bigger sufferer here.
Yeah.
There's not a pool to pull from with Gambit, and I can tell you right now, I've played probably 10 matches of Gambit, and they've all been on 2 maps. They've all been on either Mars or the one map on Earth.
Yeah.
And it's just the worst.
Yeah. Those are the maps I played in Gambit too.
Yeah, those are the 2 modes I definitely think need a little bit of love. I think they're a little gun shy to do too much with Gambit, since they just basically fixed Gambit. It's a much more enjoyable mode now, even if you get mercied a lot more. It's more fun to me now. It's a lot quicker. It's a combination of Prime and regular Gambit. We'll go into this more in a future episode, but if you're going to do all those changes, I think you need to introduce some new maps too. That's all. I'm just going to keep coming back to that. Like that and the loot concerns are probably my 2 biggest complaints right now with this game. I still think Beyond Light is a really, really solid new entry. Europa is the biggest zone they've ever done by far.
It's so big, dude. It's so big. That's the other thing, though.
Bungie had a fast travel point up north.
I was gonna say that. I'm like, give me another fast travel point. Like, I mean, Varix is like, yeah, technically he's in the middle, but there's like, we need one up north for sure. It's bad.